St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist Tony Messenger joins us every Tuesday and Thursday. You read him at stltoday.com. Also, the paper that lands on your stoop each and every day, and he's with us every Tuesday and Thursday. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, McGraw. Good morning, Kelly. How are you?
Hi, Tony.
Any quick thoughts on Peggy Noonan winning the Pulitzer Prize, my old girlfriend from the Reagan administration?
I will say this. I expected Michael Gerson to win this year, and was disappointed that he wasn't a finalist. The Washington Post columnist,
Who's a St. Louisan too,
who's from St. Louis and who wrote the most heart-wrenching pleas with his Republican Party to not nominate and not support Donald Trump. And Peggy Noonan's columns were different than that, and the Pulitzer Board went where the Pulitzer Board went. But so that's where it goes. But I really expected Michael Gerson to at least be a finalist, and was disappointed that he wasn't, because I thought his columns last year were among the most important columns in the country.
Westminster, right, is where he went to high school?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, grew up in DePere.
Okay. All right, let's talk about one of your columns that I read with great interest, and it's somewhat convoluted, which is why you're here to sort of break it down for us.
Right.
This story about the FBI.
Next year's Pulitzer.
Next year's Pulitzer finalist. Yeah. It's about the FBI, it's about trucking, and it's about Jefferson City. What's going on?
So there is this company, if you've ever you've driven on the highway by a weigh station where truckers are supposed to go. Most states now have this program by which truckers can bypass the weigh station if they meet certain requirements. They've got all their insurance up, everything else. They belong to this organization called Help Inc. or this other organization called DriveWise. And they drive over these sensors before the weigh station that sort of gives a weight of the truck while it's in motion. It's called weight in motion. Sends some information through a transponder and tells the weigh station, you can let this guy go. And it saves the truckers a lot of money. It saves consumers a lot of money. If they're enrolled in the system, then they don't have to be inspected. People know that they have insurance and all of those sorts of things. Well, in Missouri, there is one company that controls this market. It's called Help Inc. And on the board of Help Inc. sits a key member of the Missouri Department of Transportation and a key member of the Missouri State Patrol, Highway State Patrol. Used to be the superintendent of the Highway State Patrol. Over the last couple of years, a competitor has come up. That competitor is called DriveWise. They had been negotiating with the state, actually had a pilot project to bring their technology to the state. It's a little bit different. They use cell phone technology and GPS. It's a little bit, like sort of Uber for truckers. And the state regulators who sit on the board of their competitor blocked them from coming into the state. So now there is state legislation to try to stop this from happening, and there is an FBI investigation, in part because that state legislation hasn't been going anywhere, in part because the FBI sees what everybody else sees, an incredible conflict of interest when the regulators are sitting on the board of one of the competitors and are stopping a competitor from having even the right to do business in the state of Missouri. So now you have an FBI investigation. That's what my column reported. And then the day after my column hit, the state auditor, Nicole Galloway, said, that's a problem. I'm going to start an investigation. So now the state auditor is also doing an investigation. I suspect in fairly short order there are going to be more and more calls for Missouri Department of Transportation and the State Highway Patrol to get off of this board of Help Inc. So that there is not such an unbelievable conflict of interest going on.
In your story, you said that some state lawmakers were trying to get data from the state and were not allowed to get data from the state?
Yeah, these sensors are put in the state right-of-way. They become state property. And so they're producing data that, yes, Help Inc. spent the money to put it there, but that data should be available for the state. And DriveWise was trying to get the data so that they could use their program properly. They offered to pay the expenses to go in there. And what happened in the state of Missouri, I haven't reported this yet, but this will be in a follow-up column. In the state of Missouri, what happened is those regulators who sit on Help Inc.'s board, they said, you know what, DriveWise, if you want to operate in the state, you got to put your own sensors in. So Missouri was going to be the only state in the nation that, rather than sharing the data, the public data that the state should own, that happens in other states all across the nation where these two companies compete, Missouri said, no, DriveWise, you have to spend $20 million ripping up our highways, putting more your own sensors in. It was ridiculous, and it was because of the conflict of interest. So they couldn't get the data. State Senator Rob Schaaf wrote an open records request to the state, says, I want to see the weigh in motion data. I want to see what the sensors are producing. They wouldn't give it to them.
Not to tell you or not to ask you how you and or expose any sources, but FBI investigations are usually sealed. How do we know this is under an FBI investigation?
We know this is under an FBI investigation because the people who have spoken to the FBI told me on the record that they have spoken to the FBI and have confirmed that there's an investigation. So T.J. Berry, who is a state rep, has had multiple conversations with the FBI and confirmed that to me on the record. The CEO of DriveWise confirmed to me that he has had conversations with the FBI about this investigation. The CEO of Help Inc., while she said she had not spoken to the FBI, confirmed that she knew that there was an inquiry into this matter. The Speaker of the House, Todd Richardson, again, also had not spoken to the FBI, but confirmed to me that he was aware of an investigation. So there's clearly an FBI investigation. Multiple sources have confirmed it. It is unusual. It's the first time I've ever written about an FBI investigation in which people are talking about it without me having to use anonymous sources. But it's very real and it's ongoing.
All right, so just so we understand, who are the people who are on the board of this company that are also somehow working in state government?
So over the last year, it was the superintendent of the State Patrol, Brett Johnson, the top dog at the State Patrol, had been on the board of Help Inc. for a long time. And he's the guy who wrote the letter last year to DriveWise to say, you know what, you had that pilot program, we changed our minds, we're not going to work with you. Sorry. Scott Marion, who was Johnson has now retired. This is where it gets really interesting. Johnson has now retired. He's no longer the superintendent of the State Patrol, started his own consulting company. He's the personal advisor to Karen Rasmussen, the CEO of Help Inc. So he's now gone to work for the company that he was basically working for when he was the superintendent of the Missouri State Patrol. Scott Marion, who's the head of the motor carrier division for the state of Missouri under the Missouri Department of Transportation, is also on the board of Help Inc. right now. And before him, his predecessor, Jan Scooby, she works for Help Inc. now. Major Greg Kendall, who used to work for the Missouri State Patrol and was involved in keeping DriveWise out of the state, now he works for Help Inc. So you can see where the revolving door here works for state employees in the same way that it often works for lawmakers who become lobbyists.
Stay tuned, right? I guess, right? Stay tuned?
Yes, stay tuned. There will be more.
Tony Messer, have a good day. Thanks for checking in.
Good to talk to you. Thanks.
828, Big 550, KTRS.